A quick programming note for you. Our program Under the Skin, 9:30 tonight. John Perlman will be talking to Economist Trudi Makhaya. Not only is she economist, but she's also been appointed as President Ramaphosa's economic advisor, and all part of that team tasked with bringing in billions of rands of investment into the country. John's standing next to me. We'll get to him in just a moment. But let me give you a little taste of what you can expect on this program tonight.
I would have thought most investors are saying, what's the bottom line? What am I going to make? How do you imagine those conversations going, and what do you see as your key part in those?
When it comes to social justice, I think a lot of people understand the South African story and how we're still dealing with a legacy of exclusion. I mean, these are literally the words of the World Bank, which just released a report about South Africa's incomplete transition. What they call an incomplete transition. They call it incomplete because economically we still have a lot of people who are outside economic participation, outside the mainstream economy. And they talk about different kinds of exclusion, from productive assets, from opportunities in the marketplace, from education. So, you know, I think it's understood globally what we're working with.
When you say people understand, though, I want to push you a little bit on that, because they may understand it as, in the old days, they came and built a school for Nelson Mandela. In these days, they'll give money to the Tumamina Fund. But fundamentally, don't investors think profit, bottom line, and that there's really not much that they're going to do about the fundamental way in which they run their businesses unless we make them?
So they do think profit, but generally there's an understanding that your shareholders are very important, but your general stakeholders are also an important dimension of creating value. I think it's also, we would obviously welcome all investment that is appropriate and sensible. But in terms of active pursuit, I think there would be a sense that those investors who get it, those who are concerned more about impact in general, would obviously get a lot of attention and more active engagement.
All right, John, you raised two important questions in this conversation. First of all, it's about navigating tough conversations. In the time that you spent with her, is she the person to have those very difficult conversations?
Yeah, I think Trudi Makhaya is a very interesting woman, Jeremy, for a number of reasons. And the sense I get is she's going to be effective in this job. She is a really interesting mix of having very strong ideas and a very open mind. Strong ideas about what might work, but also a very open mind about making sure she draws knowledge from a wide range of sources. And very interesting, I know it's not the most important part of her work, but her Twitter feed is full of references to things that she thinks people ought to read. So I think she is in a good position, but she's dealing with very, very difficult stuff. Make no mistake about that.
What type of tough conversations is she going to have to have?
Well, I think she's saying that in that clip that they're going to work with investors who get it, which is fine, which is quite a broad concept, because I was saying it's all very well to say we're going to turn this investment and bend it in the direction of greater economic justice in South Africa. Is that of huge interest to a Swiss manufacturer of cell phones? Should there be such a thing?
The answer is patently not. I mean, it's a profit-driven conversation, isn't it?
Absolutely. But she's saying within that, you can then develop policy, you can develop frames that will make sure that those social and economic justice issues are met. She doesn't seem to be saying, certainly not her view, that you can say to investors, you have got to do X, Y, or Z. And I think that's going to bring us into some very robust conversations with other sectors of society who want government to intervene more strikingly.
Just finally, she's got a window of opportunity here to bring people on board, and patently that work has already started, but we look for instant gratification in this country. That window isn't going to remain as wide open as it is for a long time.
Well, there are different ways of looking at it. We had a little chat off-air about this whole notion of what has the president done in 100 days, and she made it plain that to use that as a measure is ridiculous, which I have to say, having
well, she's right. I mean, it's our measure in the media, isn't
absolutely, it? Absolutely. It's a media construct. So I think she's saying that you need to be decisive, get stuff done now, but she says this is a long game. It's a long game that's going to take time, and she describes her greatest weakness as not being very patient, so she's really working on that. it would seem quite successful.
I would see that, but I also see that maybe it's an advantage as well,
Yes,
which is
yes.
at this particular juncture. John, thank you very much indeed. The full interview with the President's Economic Advisor, Trudi Makhaya, on our program Under the Skin, 9:30 tonight, here on eNCA. Let me